Hey, my name is Ella and I have attempted my first ever nuzlocke with the release of Pokémon Shining Pearl. I've been playing the Pokémon games since I'm a little girl, but I was never brave enough to try on a nuzlocke. Well, until now. I chose the hardcore rule set because I really wanted to learn how to strategize and because it would feel like a real achievement for a nuzlocke newbie like me. I guess the title of the video already gives it away, but I managed to beat this nuzlocke on my first attempt. So if you're new to nuzlocking, in this video I'll show you how I did it. My rules were the following. First, be comfy, the most important rule. Second, if a Pokémon faints, it takes a nap in my box for the remainder of the game, and I cannot wake it up until I beat the nuzlocke. If I lose a fight, I have to start the game over. Third, I can only get the first encounter on each route. I handled the underground as one encounter altogether, and I can potentially target my encounter there. However, I didn't need a Pokémon from the underground at all, so I didn't need to enforce this rule. Fourth, I'm playing the game in set mode, meaning I won't get to switch Pokémon for free after defeating a foe. Fifth, no item usage in battle, only held items are allowed. Sixth, the level cap for my Pokémon is the highest leveled Pokémon of the next gym leader. And seventh, later on I added the rule to not use legendaries or pseudo-legendaries in the run. This is not a big addition to the rule set, but it would prevent me from using Guard Jump on my team. Even though Guard Jump sure is not the most broken Pokémon in the game. But yes, let's get into the run. In case you are wondering, for the release of the game I was cosplaying as Cynthia, as it was a community incentive on my Twitch channel. Just in case you're wondering. After naming my protagonist and my rival, Bertha, my first official act was to choose Chimchar as my starter. I knew that Sinnoh had very little fire types available, and Chimchar, due to its speed and flexibility in both physical and special attack, would be a great choice. I made an entire video about starter choice in Sinnoh, so if you want to check that out, I have it linked down below. I chose my nickname theme to be a word related to the Pokémon ending in ER, so we ended up with Tinder, the Chimchar. After obtaining the Pokédex and waving goodbye to our mom, our first encounter on Lake Verity was a Starly, which we named Twitter. On Route 201, our encounter was Bidoof, which we named Chomper. And then on Route 202, we encountered a Shinx, which sadly didn't have Intimidate, but Rivalry. But you know, first encounter rule. We named it Charger. After making it to Jubilife City and gaining our Pokédex, we got another few encounters. The early game is so exciting since we get so many new friends. We caught Sprouter the Badoo on Route 204. And then we found Harder, the Geodude, in Ravaged Path. Oh, and then we found a random shiny Starly when I trained up my Pokémon on Route 202. I was completely taken aback. Now, many people allow themselves to use shinies in nuzlocks, but I wanted to stay true to my first encounter rule. Even if it's a Pokémon of the same species, not only ability and nature change, but also its IV spread, which are the hidden stats of a Pokémon, determining how strong it will be. So we caught it, named it Twitlonger, and put it into our box. Then Berry wanted to fight us, but we didn't have any issues beating him. Charger took care of his Starly and the Piplup all by herself. We then proceeded to catch Porter, the Abra. If you don't know how to catch an Abra, make sure to lead with Chimchar and use Taunt, so it cannot teleport away. I had never used Taunt until this very day, but now I'm telling all my friends. Then we proceeded to Ouroboros City. We met Berry in front of the gym saying something about the gym leader playing Minecraft, so we needed to go get him. Before I did that, I got my Ouroboros Gate encounter, Zubat, which we named Sucker. I was particularly stoked about this one, because Crobat is not only one of my favorite Pokémon, but also the Pokémon with the highest speed base stat, and incredibly useful in any nuzlocke. Then I went into the mine, and after talking to Roark, the missing gym leader, I got my encounter there, which could only be an Onix, as we already found Geodude and Zubat. This Onix was tough, and it almost killed my Geodude with Bind. I was so happy I picked up the Dusk Ball in one of the Ouroboros buildings, and that definitely came in clutch for us here. We named it Longer. On Route 207, above Ouroboros, I got another encounter, a Machop we named Choker. Tinder evolved into Monferno at level 14, which was the level cap, and then we challenged Roark with our squad. I used my chop with low kick here to utilize the heavy weight of Roark's rock-type mons, and revenge on Roark's fast Cranidos. So we got the first badge without any issues. If I could do this fight again, I'd use Monferno with Power Up Punch, just sweeping the team, but either works. So far, so good. Back in Jubilife, we fought 2 Team Galactic Grunts, which I guess were the evil guys, who wanted to steal Professor Rowan's homework or something like this. So we fought them with Lucas and clapped their butts. Then we arrived in Floroma Town, and after admiring the flowers for about 30 minutes and fighting some more Galactic Grunts for a key, we challenged Galactic Commander Mommy. Oh, Mars. Sorry. We mainly used Longer here, but I totally forgot that Rock Smash now only lowers defense 50% of the time. In Generation 4, this rate was at 100%, so I definitely got lucky with some drops. It's really nice to use bulky mons like Onyx and Geodude here, as Mars's Pokémon cannot do a lot against them. We then proceeded and got our Route 205 encounter, a Shellos we named Oozer. I saved my Valley Windworks encounter because I decided to get a Drifloon later on. The next day we could finally have our Honeytree encounter in Floroma Meadow, which turned out to be a Wurmple, which we named Flutter. It would become a Dustox later on, which I was extremely excited about. I love Dustox. Then Badoo evolved into Rosalia, finally, and Shinx evolved into Luxio. Look at all my babies growing up! We proceeded towards Eterna Forest, where we safely escorted Cheryl. I used repels here because I didn't want Cheryl to accidentally kill my encounter. Accidentally. Sure, Cheryl. Sure. I got a Misdreavus called Witcher later on here, but it's not important to the plot. We arrived in Eterna City, and after a short intermezzo in the underground, yeah, I definitely did not spend 4 hours down there, we met Mommy for the first time. Mommy? Sorry. Mommy? Sorry. Mommy? Sorry. Oh my god. We then proceeded to get our second badge from Gardenia, the grass-type leader. I mainly used Monferno for this fight, and I would make sure to taunt Cherubi to not be able to set up against me. The Turtwig was a bit annoying due to its physical bulkiness, so my Flame Wheel didn't do as much damage as I wanted to. Because I took some damage, I sent out Staravia against Roserade. We got Stun Sport, which was a bit scary, but with a few plucks and a bit of RNG luck, we could take out the Roserade without any issues. And we received the Forest Badge from Gardenia. Now that we could use Cut, we visited the Old Chateau to catch a Ghastly, which we named Liquor. Then we started to clear out the Eterna Galactic building. I evolved my Onyx into a Steelix with a metal coat from Wild Bronzors, and also our Zubat evolved into Golbat, and then immediately into Crobat, which really surprised me. We then were ready to take on Commander Jupiter. I mean, Mommy? Sorry. Mommy? Sorry, are we doing this again? Why are all these characters such mommies? Listen, I'm not complaining. Anyway, Jupiter has a Skunk Tank that is particularly mean, as it has Flamethrower and Aftermath, an ability that will do 25% damage once taken out, so I had to be sure to kill it with more than a quarter of my HP on my side. But with Taunt and Power Up Punch from Monferno, it was not a big deal and we remained undefeated. Then we got our bicycle and made our way to the south of the bicycle road. On Route 206 we caught a Bronzor. I had no idea how crucial this mon would be in my upcoming battles. It also had Levitate ability, which I also didn't know was very, very good. We named it Donger. Yes, I think you can see a bit of a pattern in these nicknames, but I do blame chat. Then we caught another, as it turns out, super crucial mon for my team in Mount Coronet, which was Cleffa. I put my game time to morning so I would increase my chances to find one, as I just really love the Clefairy line. It's also one of the few fairy types you get access to in Shining Pearl, as Mr. Mime is in Brilliant Diamond, so this is definitely great for coverage. We named the little Cleffa Dazzler, and I was stoked. We then arrived in Heart Home City, and after a short, semi-successful intermezzo of making puffins, we battled Berry for the second time. At that time, I already had evolved harder into Golem, and in combination with Charger and Tinder, it was easy to defeat him. We picked up the egg in Heart Home City, and I hatched a Happiny. I was so excited about this. Thanks to the extensive hatching process, Dazzler evolved into Clefairy immediately after. We then proceeded on Route 209 and visited the Lost Tower before arriving in Solaceon Town. Ghastly evolved into Haunter, and on our way to Veilstone City, we caught a Ponyta on Route 210, which we named Stomper. In Veilstone, I discovered the existence of the fashion store, and I was over the moon to dress my character in some cute overalls. Isn't she adorable? And then it was time to head into the next gym, featuring Maylene, the fighting type gym leader. Before facing Maylene, we evolved Dazzler into Clefable, which turned out to be extremely crucial for what was coming up. I had a rough plan for Maylene and I headed into battle. But oh god, here's where my run almost ended. I led with Monferno to taunt the Meditite so it could not set up any reflects or light screens. Then I switched into Clefable, which took out both Meditite and Machoke without any issues. Overly secure that this would not cause me any additional trouble, I faced the Lucario. But oh boy. In order to prevent the bulk up, I switched back into Monferno. A bad idea, because I didn't think it was faster than I was, which completely makes sense in hindsight. I still went through with the taunt idea, then facing a Drain Punch from the bulked up Lucario, which just straight up OKO'd me. I was in absolute shock. I didn't think Tinder would die from this. I just learned how poor Monferno's defense was. After going back and forth for a while, I decided to send in Dazzler despite the Metal Claw, so I could set up a Reflect and then potentially take it out with Oozer and Bulldoze. But I had no idea about what pivoting and sacking Mons was. So I just switched into Lucario's attacks, not even getting a chance to do anything. I barely survived this undertaking. We bulldozed once before Oozer died, which turned out to be quite crucial as it would slow Lucario down. Still, my Pokémon kept dropping like flies. Staravia was OKO'd by a crit, so I sent in Sucker. Our Crobat was surprisingly bulky against Lucario, and I could do significant damage against it with Pluck. However, Maylene healed, so I started to feel really hopeless about this fight. After another round or two, Crobat also had to bite the dust. My beloved Crobat. This hurt. We only had Dustox as a healthy mon left. I had taught it Psychic, and we could take another chunk of Lucario's HP. But then Dustox died, and my only mon left was Dazzler with about 10% HP. I was so ready to start the Nuzlocke over. And then it happened. Because I was faster thanks to the speed drop on Lucario, I got a Psychic off, which managed to kill it. I could not believe it. This fight was rough. I was absolutely traumatized. I didn't know what to do, and I felt so helpless. After boxing my defeated mons, I made a promise to myself. I would never let this happen again. I would never be put in a corner like this ever again. I was determined to get good. So my wonderful friend and VGC legend, Jocario, explained the damage calculator to me, which I was too afraid to use before, because it looked intimidating and complicated. But throughout the course of the game, it became my best friend. Suddenly, it was impossible for me to not calc things anymore. Shaken up after losing some of my best mons, I proceeded. We caught a Hippopotas in the Maniac Cave on Route 214, and I also finally added the best Pokémon possible to my team. Magikarp. Honestly, the fact that I could have gotten Magikarp this entire time, and that it would have probably helped me a lot in Maylene's gym, made me feel quite stupid. Get your Magikarps, kids! So we went back to Twin Leaf Town and used the old rod there. We named our Carp Thrasher. In BDSP particularly, Magikarp evolves at level 20 and gets immediate access to Waterfall, a physical water type move that potentially makes your target flinch. Paired up with Gyarados' sheer physical attack, having a physical water type move like this is incredibly broken. We then made it to Pastoria City. For the next gym leader, water type user Crasher Wake, we caught ourselves a Pichu in the Trophy Garden, which we evolved to Pikachu and then to Raichu. We named it Cheeker, and now it was time to make my first strategy against Crasher Wake. Yes, with the calculator, which was surprisingly simple. Raichu. Raichu outspeeds 2 of Wake's mons, which is incredibly useful. We taught it Grass Knot, so it could also take care of the Quagsire, which would otherwise be an issue. Against the Floatzel, I decided to nuzzle so I could make it slower. But our static ability took care of it before I could even get my first move off. Now being faster, I could easily take it out with Thunderbolt. Raichu really sweeped this. The next fight against Barry was happening, and I also used Raichu here. I tried a Nasty Blot strategy and just set up to sweep through Barry's team, which worked out surprisingly well. We then caught a Wooper, which we named Goober, on Route 212, and a Meryl, which we named Bouncer, in the Great Marsh. Then we had some more simping time with Mommy, who sent us to Celestic Town. In Celestic Town, we had a short one-on-one with Cyrus, but he didn't want to fight. Fine, I guess. We then returned to Hearthome to prep for Ghost-type gym leader Fantina. I decided to take an incredibly easy strategy here, which basically just involved Gyarados, Substitute, and Dragon Dance. We set up behind Substitute and started sweeping Fantina's team. Of course, if you play Restricted mode, this is not an option. But because I didn't know about Hardcore Plus or Restricted at that time, it was a valid strategy for me. I also never used Substitute in my life before, so it was also very teaching. We obtained our 5th badge and made our way to Canalaf City. Barry wanted to fight again, and I felt really secure with my Substitute strat, but oh boy, this one was quite clutch. Staravia didn't do anything but double team, making it incredibly hard for me to land a hit. Also, the Quick Claw procced way too often, leaving me with as little as 6 HP behind my Substitute. It was nerve-wracking, but then we luckily landed a hit on Staravia, and with that, the rest of the team was easy to take out. And this was the day on which I learned about evasion strats. Very cool. Then I started prepping for Byron, the Steel-type gym leader in Canalaf. After doing some math, our Quagsire Goober holding a metronome would be the MVP here. We opened the fight with Steelix and Taunt in order to prevent setups from Bronzor, which we then took out with Smackdown and Bulldoze. Then we switched into Quagsire and just started surfing. Steelix and Bastiodon were no problem at all, and we got our 6th badge. We took the ship to the Iron Islands, where we obtained the Riolu egg. After some plot happening in the library of Canalaf and Bronzor evolving into Bronzong, we went to investigate the lakes of Sinnoh. It was like a war scene with those poor Magikarps flailing around. Going full Karen, we were looking for the manager responsible for this, and we met Saturn, the 3rd commander of Team Galactic, who challenged us to a fight. At that time, Licker was already a Gengar and took out Bronzor, and Clefable took care of Toxicroak. We then fought Commander Mars at Lake Verity again, which also wasn't a huge issue with Golem. We then made our way towards Snowpoint City by making it through Route 216 and 217. We caught both a Sneasel and a Snover, which we named Scratcher and Conifer, respectively. Conifer evolved into Abomasnow, and then it was time to prep for Candice, the Ice-type gym leader. But the real question is, Candice, gym leader really beat us? Sorry. I had made my most elaborate strategy so far, and I was very excited to try it out. We lead Bronzong using Sunny Day against Snover, and then OKOing it with Weather Ball, which turns into a Fire-type move in the sunlight. You can teach those moves to Bronzong via the move tutor in Pastoria City. For Sneasel, I used Trick Room, giving us attack priority for the next 5 turns. As Bronzong is quite slow, this is rather perfect. We then OKO'd Sneasel with a Weather Ball as well, and then the Medicham hit the field. Medicham was the only mon I was a bit scared of, as it can potentially do a significant amount of damage, and I could definitely not one-shot it. Hoping it would not crit me, I landed a crit with Heavy Slam instead, immediately OKOing it, which was amazing. I now had 2 turns of Trick Room left instead of only 1. Having Trick Room still up was crucial against the Abomasnow, as we had to renew Sunny Day and interrupt the hail, which results in Aurora Veil failing. If Abomasnow gets Aurora Veil up, it's significantly harder to take it out. But it all worked out, and we literally just had to Weather Ball to OKO. So we successfully sweep the gym without even a scratch. What an amazing feeling this was. I loved how this strategy worked. We had earned our 7th badge and then we... One sec, I have to check my notes. We proceeded to save the world? Yeah, I think that was it. After finishing our lake investigation, we proceeded to the Galactic headquarters in Veilstone, where we fought Cyrus, the leader of Team Galactic, for the first time. He was not particularly difficult to take out in this fight. We utilized Raichu against his flying types and our bulky Azumarill, which is water fairy type, against his Sneasel. We then fought Saturn another time, which was no problem for the Dream Team Licker and Dazzler, just like in the previous fight against him. We freed the lake Pokemon, but Team Galactic was already a step ahead. Oh no! How would we ever stop them? I guess we had to follow them to the highest point in Sinnoh, the top of Mount Coronet, because why not? Shouldn't adults take care of this? Am I not just 10 asking for a friend? But okay, never mind. We made it there after only getting lost like 38 times. We found out about Cyrus' super evil plan, soak the world in Windows Media Player patterns. Anyone remember those? Am I old? I'm probably too old. So planning this fight was a bit tricky because you will fight Mars and Jupiter first and then Cyrus immediately after. So make sure you have the Pokemon you want to lead against Cyrus in the first slot, because you won't get a chance to rearrange your team in between. Somehow I thought that I had to fight both Mars and Jupiter myself, which I wouldn't have minded at all because I'm hella gay for both of them, but turns out Barry was actually helping us here, so my entire prep was way too much. I think in double battles it's always very important to delay and control certain switch-ins, so I would leave Jupiter's team alone and take out Mars's first, as I definitely did not want to fight both their aces at the same time. With that in mind, the fight was really not a big problem. And then it was time to fight Cyrus. Again. Somehow he managed to evolve all his Pokemon, so that was a cool trick. I decided to lead with Raichu, which outsped the Honchkrow, giving us a chance to OKO it. Because the Gyarados had Earthquake and a Shuka Berry, Raichu was definitely not the right choice for this. So we countered with our own Gyarados and Thunderbolt, which was admittedly a little bit ugly, but it did the trick. And then we took out Crobat with Gyarados and OKO'd Weavile with Bronzong, and we saved the world. Easy as that. Then we arrived in the last city, Sunnyshore. After buying way too many stickers at the Sunnyshore market, we made it into the last gym, which was Volkner's electric type gym. I made a very cheesy future side strat with Porter. Alakazam is a glass cannon, but it has incredible speed and special attack, which I wanted to utilize here. I was so eager to see if it would work out. We put a Cherry Berry on Porter to heal potential paralysis, and we just future sight first turn. We then OKO Volkner's Raichu with Psyshock. I was hoping for the Ambipom switch in, which turned out to be the correct read. Because I was dead to double hit, I switched into Bronzong. Future Sight just straight up one-shots Ambipom, so I didn't have to worry about it at all. My counter for Octillery was Abomasnow, which always one-shots here with Woodhammer, and against Luxray we'd use Hippowdon and Earthquake. So we bet Volkner in 7 turns, which was amazing. We made it! We had collected all our badges. It was an amazing feeling. After a few scary battles in Victory Road, we finally made it to the Pokémon League. I was so excited! But there was one last rival battle before being able to challenge the Elite Four, and I prepared for it. First, I used Gengar against Staraptor to escape the scary close combat and just strike it down with Thunderbolt. Then I used Gyarados against Snorlax as I was immune to high horsepower. Barry's Heracross gave me a real headache. It was really strong and I didn't have a proper flying or fire type to take it on. I decided to teach Steelix Firefang and give it a Flame Plate. Since Heracross didn't run a fighting type move, it was actually viable to run a bulky steel type here. But Barry, with the 5-head plays, stole my Flame Plate, and when I wanted to attack another time, he switched into Rapidash, which had Flash Fire. We got completely outplayed by Barry. Goodness gracious. Well, Rapidash was not a big problem against Thicker with Stab Earthquake. Roserade was easy to take out with Conifer, and Empoleon had to give up against Scrambler. And then only the Heracross was left. I probably misplayed here because I forgot that Heracross was faster than us. I swapped into Gyarados to get an Intimidate in, but then I was Rock Slide crit by Heracross, realizing I could never actually attack here. Honestly, I think it was good I got crit here. I was never dead, but otherwise I might have forgotten the speed difference. Still, it was very scary when Thrasher saw his life flash before his eyes. I sent in Steelix and it was honestly no problem to just KO it with a few Fire Fangs. And now, there was nothing in the way between me and the Pokémon League. With the Pokémon I had left, I assembled a team that would be capable of carrying me through the fights. I planned everything deathless as I wanted to lose as little Pokémon as possible, even though in hindsight it was probably not necessary to plan it this way, and sacrificing mons for switch-ins is just a very natural thing in Nuzlocke. To make it a bit more challenging, I scratched setup moves like Dragon Dance from my sets. However, I did not know at the time that Substitute was considered a setup move, so I ran it. I only found out before I started the E4, and I wasn't ready to change my strat, so I just went with it. Without having access to stat increasing moves, I felt like it was okay to use. I took Thrasher, our Gyarados, and maxed it in attack and gave it some defense bulk as it would be in against quite some physically strong mons. Next up was Donger, our Bronzong, which was perfect due to its steel typing and levitate. It is quite bulky by nature, and its main task was to set up trick rooms and rocks for our strategy. Then I also took Sprouter, our Roserade, which I mainly needed for Bertha and Cynthia's Gastrodon. I maxed it in special attack and also gave it some speed EVs. I also decided to take Scrambler, our Blissey. People say that Blissey makes a lot of situations very easy, so they ban it, but it would give me a lot of security for the champ battle. With its insanely big HP pool and special defense, it was a perfect wall to tank and take hits, whilst also doing some special attack damage. I knew I needed an Earthquake Stab user for a few of the E4 aces and Cynthia, especially against Drapion, Infernape and Lucario. The ground typing is also super helpful to pivot whenever Gyarados would bait an electric type move. At first I drafted Steelix, but I couldn't make the strategy work with it as Infernape was always an issue. Once I put Thicker, our Hippowdon, into the equation, everything worked out way too well. I gave it max defense and also upped its attack quite a bit to guarantee some 2-hit KOs. And last but not least, I really wanted to take Dazzler, our Clefable. It was the only survivor from Maylene's gym, so I really wanted to make sure that it got a place to shine. The Fairy typing is incredibly useful, and due to Garchomp carrying a Yachi Berry, I felt like Fairy was just the better choice to take out the dragon. I put my level cap to 63 for the Elite Four, and for the champ battle I'd raise it to 66. I would also change movesets and held items throughout the E4 in order to adapt to my different strategies. And then we went in. Aaron was supposed to be smooth sailing, but I made my first big misplay when he sent in Heracross as his second mon. These damn Heracrosses! My original plan was to use Metronome Gyarados to just sweep through. Despite being behind a substitute, I switched because I wasn't thinking, even though I could have easily waterfalled the Heracross. We swapped into Donger instead to Trick Room, and then took out the Heracross with Dazzler. So I guess at least that went right. And then instead of switching back into Thrasher, we just let Dazzler do the heavy lifting. The only mon that gave me a bit of a headache was Vespiquen, as I wasn't aware that Acrobatics would do more damage once it wouldn't hold an item anymore. So once that Citrus Berry was used up, Vespi's damage went up quite a bit. But with Moonlight, this was totally alright, and we took it out eventually. Aaron's ace Pokemon was Drapion, which Thicker easily OKO'd with Earthquake. 1 down, 4 to go. Bertha was supposed to be the easiest Elite Four member. Special attack based fast-ish grass types like Sprouter, our Roserade, really sweep this fight. It was one of the main reasons I took it into the team. I led with Bronzong to Stealth Rock in order to break the sturdy of Golem later on. I really wondered if Quagsire could actually Earthquake here, as I don't think it can assume Bronzong's Levitate ability. But luckily it didn't. That switch-in really made me sweaty though. Bertha also changed the order of her mons here and switched into Whiscash as a second. I slowly realized that I didn't really consider the switch AI in this fight. I had a metronome on Roserade, making sure that once Whiscash would be in, we could easily one-shot it despite it carrying a Rindo Berry. But of course I assumed it would come in later. I think Stealth Rock really saved us here, otherwise it would have been arranged to OKO it. But we got lucky and the rest of the fight was literally just OKOing Bertha's mons with Giga Drain. It was very brute force and straightforward, but it did the trick. 2 down, 3 to go. Flint was the first fight I was a little bit scared of. There was quite some RNG risk in this, but also lots of opportunity. I led with Bronzong again to Stealth Rock in order to break Infernape's Focus Sash later on. Technically, Hippowdon's Sandstream ability could do this too, but I didn't know how the fight would go in terms of switch AI, so I didn't want to rely on Sandstorm actually being up. Leading Bronzong was very risk-free and would even give me the opportunity to set up Trick Room against the very fast Rapidash. By carrying a Lumberry, we managed to do both and we protected for 1 turn to have Trick Room run out with Rapidash being OKO'd. Then we sent in Gyarados. After substituting, we easily took out Rapidash with a Waterfall. Then Flint sent in Steelix, which has Thunderfang and would be Thrash's certain death. But as we were behind Substitute, and me not making the same mistake as earlier, we went for the Waterfall here. And this was also my reasoning for using Substitute. We would minimize the risk of getting a defense drop from Iron Tail on Hippowdon once switched in, which would have been annoying. Getting 1 Waterfall in would bring Steelix into Earthquake kill range, and we'd minimize the risk of the death drop, which was at 22.5% considering the 75 accuracy of Iron Tail. But then it happened. We actually got the Waterfall flinch and we could take out Steelix easily with Gyarados. It went so much better than expected. Then Flint sent in Lopunny, which funnily missed its high jump kick, also making it possible for me to take it out with a single Waterfall. And then, easily the scariest mon of the fight, the Drifblim. Drifblim does not have any direct attack moves, but it can cause burns and increase its evasion with Minimize, making it less likely for us to land a hit against it. And with Baton Pass, it could easily pass on the increased evasion to Infernape, which could potentially give us a really hard time. My plan here was to run Roar on Hippowdon, as Roar never misses and will switch out Pokémon, resetting stat increases. After missing Taunt with Gyarados, Roar really came in clutch for me, as Drifblim decided to Baton Pass into Infernape only after 1 Minimize, which results in a 66% chance to hit Infernape, which was not a risk I was ready to take. We roared out the Infernape with Thicker, and then roared the Infernape in again, which we easily OKO'd with Earthquake. As you can see, Roar gives you control over the fight back. And after there was no one to Baton Pass to, Drifblim was also quite easy to take out. The risk-free strat paid off and it was 3 down, 2 to go. The last member of the Elite Four, Lucian, was waiting for us. We led Thrasher with Taunt so Mr. Mime could not set up against us. It carries a Light Clay so Reflect and Light Screen are up for 8 rounds, making it much harder to take out Lucian's team. After waterfalling Mr. Mime out, Lucian sent in Girafarig. Girafarig was meant to set up Trick Room for Medicham later, so I definitely wanted to prevent that, but with Mental Herb, I could not taunt it. So we just went for the hack and slash method, and with Black Glasses, we could just about crunch OKO it. Without Trick Room, Medicham was really slow, but still very scary. Probably the scariest mon in the Elite Four, as only our Hippowdon was safe from exactly 1 high jump kick crit. Hoping it would Thunder Punch, I swapped into Thicker and ran Protect, speculating on the high jump kick, which turned out to be the correct read. Then it was an Earthquake range and I could easily take it out. I was so sweaty. Then Alakazam was sent in. Alakazam could not be outsped by any of my mons, but I made that my advantage. I sent in Donger with Payback, which, with our lower speed, would always OKO Alakazam. I also assumed the future sight here as it would kill Hippowdon, so I made sure to run Protect on Bronzong in order to be able to stay in for another turn and take the future sight damage, whilst not getting killed by Lucian's ace, which was also a Bronzong. This worked out perfectly. After future sight was through, I sent Thicker back in for Bronzong, and after a few crunches, the Elite Four were defeated without me losing a single Pokemon, just as I planned. 4 down, only 1 to go. The one, the only, the mommy. Sorry, mommy.
I'm very
Sorry.
hyped and you look
Mommy.
amazing.
The champ, Cynthia. I was extremely nervous going into this battle, but at the same time I felt proud for making it this far. Everyone was alive and well, and I could hopefully make my strategy and my calcs work. We led Clefable with choice specs, as we would need those against Garchomp later on. Moonblast easily took out the Spiritomb, and we baited in Roserade with Sludge Bomb. We pivot over Donga to dodge, and then switched into Scrambler, our Blissey, on Shadow Ball, which also had no effect on us. A perfect switch rotation. My plan was to take out Roserade with Ice Beam. I knew that I would bait the Lucario afterwards, so I had to be sure to have more than 70% HP in case I got an Aura Sphere crit. But Cynthia switched into Lucario early, which I, at the time, didn't think was a bad thing. And then it happened. My plan was to slow down Lucario with 2 Bulldozers and then switch into Hippowdon to take it out. I fully assumed Lucario would not sit up against us, as Aura Sphere was strong and effective against Blissey, but it still did. I totally missed that part in my calcs. But we didn't have a choice but using Bulldoze twice either way, otherwise we had no way of stopping this Lucario. We took 1 +2 Aura Sphere hit, which deprived me of an awfully big chunk of my HP before we got our second Bulldoze through. But then I was truly unsure what to do. I still needed Scrambler against Roserade and Milotic, so there was no way I could sacrifice it here. First I thought maybe switching into Dazzler would be viable, as Lucario would probably not Flash Cannon here. But I wasn't ready to take that risk, as Dazzler was our Garchomp killer. If Dazzler dies, the run dies. Chat was really wonderful here, so thank you Joco and Souls. Ultimately, we decided to sacrifice Thrasher, our Gyarados, as it was not essential and it also had quite a bit of special defense, so it would probably not die right away, and we got a chance to Waterfall and flinch. And then this happened. Thrasher dodged the Dragon Pulse, and Waterfall almost took out Lucario. We were so close. It was so good. But then Cynthia completely outplayed us. Instead of healing, as I assumed, she switched into Gastrodon on our Waterfall, and Gastrodon had an ability called Storm Drain, absorbing any water-type damage and raising its special attack instead. I was completely flabbergasted. What an amazing AI play. I wasn't sure if I should cry or laugh, but it happened. So we just tried to deal with it. Luckily, Gastrodon was not a problem at all with Sprout on our team, so we just OKO'd it. Easy. Next up was Milotic, which I originally wanted to Worry Seed to get rid of its Marvel Scale ability and attack it with physical moves because of Mirror Coat. However, with Thrasher being much lower in HP now, I thought that strat was not viable anymore. So after missing a Leech Seed and taking much more Ice Beam damage than I thought, I switched into Scrambler. My original plan was to PP stall it out of attack moves, but after a few rounds, I truly questioned if that would work. We also had to keep in mind to save 2 Bulldozers and a Soft Bolt for Lucario. Again, chat came in clutch. Soulsy, you're the goat. And we decided to Anchor Milotic into Scald with Dazzler after slowing it down with Bulldoze. I was a little concerned about Ice Beam here, as a potential freeze on Clefable would jeopardize the entire run, but here I learned that mons definitely prioritize their stab attacks, meaning attacks of the same typing as them. So in this case, Milotic would prioritize Scald over Ice Beam, as it is a water type and Scald is a water type move. It does make sense after you know it. So we did exactly that, and then switched into Roserade to Giga Drain without risking being Ice Beamed or Mirror Coated, and it totally worked. After 1 Giga Drain, 1 heal and 2 more free Giga Drains, Milotic was no more. It was genius. Then Cynthia sent in Roserade, which I kinda totally forgot about. We swapped back into Scrambler and did the whole Ice Beam soft boiled stuff again, successfully taking it out. Finally. And back was our nemesis, Lucario. Because Cynthia had to heal, which was actually really lucky, we could again bulldoze it twice without issues, but it nasty plotted again. And then I made the difficult decision to sack Blissey here. I would get a free switch into Hippowdon, and as I was fast after 2 speed drops, I could just OKO it. Oh, my heart hurt. I didn't want to lose any of my babies. I wanted to beat this Deathless so badly. But I think here I really learned how sacrificing mons can be an integral part of the strategy, which I totally didn't consider before. So after Scrambler took that one last, painful Aura Sphere for us, we followed our plan, switched into Thicker, and our revenge was so sweet. Lucario was no more. Fs and 07s in the chat for our brave Scrambler. And with that, there was only one Pokemon left that was between us and the champ title. Enter Cynthia's Garchomp, the ace, the scary, the run killer. With Earthquake, Metal Claw, Sword Dance, and Poison Jab, it had extremely good coverage and could become very scary very quickly. And the Yachi Berry would never allow us to one-shot it with an Ice-type move. My plan was simple. I switched into Bronzong, which would never be dead to any crit, and immunity to 2 of Garchomp's moves. I used Trick Room and switched into Clefable. And then being faster thanks to Trick Room, I only had one single thing to do. Click Moonblast, and the choice specs would do the rest. Dazzler, our only survivor, our hope, our dream, taking out that Garchomp to beat this challenge. It was beautiful. It was perfect. I was so happy. We just became the new champ of Sinnoh, and I became the winner of my very first ever hardcore Nuzlocke at the first attempt. I was so moved by the support of my community. Everyone came to watch me beat this challenge, and the hype would not stop. I formed a real bond and attachment to my team. My first team to ever beat a Nuzlocke. I love them all so much. Thank you, team. Thank you for winning this for me. The credits made me cry, and I finally got to experience the amazing feeling of beating a challenge like this. It was pure euphoria. I think this is the Nuzlocke high that everyone is talking about. This was incredibly fun, and I learned more things than I did in over 20 years of playing Pokemon. If you are scared of playing a Nuzlocke like I was, I really just recommend trying it. I found so many friends as well, new communities and streamers I could bond with, and I'm forever grateful for this experience. Nuzlocks have not seen the last of me. Right now I'm trying my first restricted hardcore Nuzlocke of Renegade Platinum. I'm very slow, but if you ever want to see that, feel free to stop by my Twitch channel. I'll link it below. Thank you so much for watching. Stay comfy, and see you next time, maybe.